Hello, and welcome to the Human-Animal Bond and Ethical Implications in Veterinary Medicine Talk. My name is Dr. Jane Jenkins, and I'm going to walk you through some of these ideas. So as I said, my name is Dr. Jane Jenkins. I've been a facilitator for the VMHS for the last 4 years, I believe. I'm a licensed psychologist in the United States, in Washington State. I was a psychologist in a veterinary teaching hospital for about 5 years. I've also been in private practice for about 4 years doing traditional therapy, and then most recently, equine assisted psychotherapy. This is my little family. I have 3 rescue horses, a old grandma, corgi, and a moose that comes to visit us once in a while. NOMV itself was founded in 2014 in response to the suicide of a world-renowned veterinarian, and it started as a small Facebook forum and has expanded and continues today, supporting professionals in the animal medical industry across the world. It is a social media platform where veterinarians can discuss challenges that they experience. And their mission is to transform the status of mental wellness within the profession so veterinary professionals can survive and thrive through education, resources, and support. And you can see their values here. They're very serious about what they do. In addition to that is the VMHS, the Veterinary Mental Health Support. So this was founded in 2020 to provide mental health support services to the veterinary medicine community. And they offer free virtual support groups and individual sessions for veterinarians and sometimes med attached folks. The difference between VMHS and NOMV is that VMHS is not really a social platform. It's HIPAA compliant, confidential, and the groups and support sessions are led by psychologists who have actual training and expertise in problems that veterinarians might experience. So either or, depending on what the need is, are very useful. So what we're going to talk about today is the definition and also the evolution of the human-animal bond. We're going to take a quick dip into some evidence, some trickle-down impacts of the ever-evolving human-animal bond on vet med, definition of ethics, how some human-animal bond situations might create ethical challenges for you as veterinarians, look at a few examples that you can think about, and then we'll look at some takeaways. So what is the human-animal bond? The definition by the AVMA is a mutually beneficial and dynamic relationship between people and animals that is influenced by behaviors that are essential to the health and well-being of both. There's a philosophy of a equine therapy training program that I'm involved in called Natural Lifemanship, and they say if it isn't good for one partner in the relationship, eventually it won't be good for either. And I think this really applies the human-animal bond. So here's a little brief timeline. In 1859, we have Florence Nightingale, who actually thought that small pet animals were great companions for the sick. And if people had to take care of them, then they should be encouraged to do so. And then in the 1960s, we had a psychiatrist by the name of Conrad Lorenz who did a lot of work with the human-animal bond with ducks and geese. And he could imprint on them and they would follow him everywhere. In the 1960s, Boris Levinson, a psychologist, wrote a book called Pet-Oriented Child Psychotherapy after a, I'm trying to think of the word, selectively mute, that's the word. Young patient of his wouldn't talk to anyone else, but when he left the room, the child began talking to his dog Jingles. And that opened a whole additional world for Dr. Levinson. In the 1970s, the Delta Foundation was formed. It's now called Pet Partners. This was also the start of the AVMA Human Animal Bond Task Force. So we're seeing some evolving here, right? In the 1990s, the International Society for Anthrozoology was formed. That focuses entirely on the human-animal bond, human-animal interactions, anything human-animal is encompassed by ISAS. And in the 1990s through today, we have various centers popping up in universities, and this field is growing very rapidly. So the human-animal bond consists of, in my opinion, some connections. We have this long history of collaborative relationships, and there's this thing called biophilia that we'll talk about in a minute. Those are the bases of the connections, and then they're reinforced through socialization, commercialization, and then one's personal experience. So Leo Bustad had some really cool things to say about the human-animal bond. Almost everyone could benefit by contact with warm fuzzies, and our companion animals offer us security, succor, esteem, understanding, forgiveness, fun, and laughter, and most importantly, abundant and unconditional love. These collaborations have been going on for years and years. Dogs and humans around 15,000 years, horses and humans around 6,000, and cats and humans another 5,500 years. So biophilia is this idea that we have this natural tendency or natural drive to socialize with animals in nature, and then we're primed to feel relaxed, connected, and safe in the presence of nature and animals. And this is especially true in the vet med world. If you don't believe me, look at the cute little pictures, right? If you don't feel a little something something, then you may not have biophilia, and you may not. So this biophilic and collaborative relationship become reinforced through socialization, commercialization, and personal experience. Socialization, you will see many animal-themed nurseries. Winnie the Pooh is everywhere. Wildland animals are everywhere. And then people most typically buy their new baby a stuffed animal as its first kind of introduction into animals are safe, animals are our friends. It also constitutes over $2 billion in sales, and that was a few years ago. So you can see how this is all interrelated. Continues into childhood and books, $36.5 billion in sales in children's books in 2023. And then toys, $5.2 billion market in 2023 in toys. Not just animal toys, full disclosure, but you can see how this would impact the influence of animals in our lives. And then personal experience. 66% of American homes include at least one pet, and that's almost 87 million households, compared to around just over half in 1988. Millennials, as an aside, are the largest population of pet owners, mostly cats, but then, or I'm sorry, mostly dogs, and then some cats, birds, and fish. Significance of the human-animal bond for us. 87% of pet owners regard their pets as family members. I know that I do. And many, many people feel closer to a pet than other humans. This is not uncommon. And in a study in 2003, Melson found that children with pets were less anxious and withdrawn when they had to adjust or move to a new home. So they create this strong, strong sense of stability and safety. This is a little diagram from Berker, who did a study in 1997. So the circles are the people in this person's life. The proximity to me reflects the bond. So you can see how close the bond that little kiddo had to the dog. It's the closest thing to me. And then they ranked 1 to 7, always supportive, never abusive. And the dog was a 7. So we can see how this starts so young and it just grows. In addition, 85% of people report grief symptoms comparable to loss of a family member after the death of a pet. Proximity is such a strong predictor of grief. And when our pets are with us every single day, it's intense. 81% of homeless youth said their dogs provided unconditional love, reduced loneliness, and improved their health status. Pet owners had 15% fewer annual doctor's visits than non-owners. And frequency of social interactions with strangers can be higher when a dog is present, as found by McNicholas and Collins in 2000. And I kind of wanted to know, was it a real thing? So myself and some friends took our dogs. So we have Gracie, Ferris, and Doug, and we walked in the streets of Boston proper in Massachusetts. We had 221 direct observations, 120 with the dog, 120 without the dog. We wanted to see if the dog was the catalyst for socialization. And you can see here that it was. We had a significant increase in sociability when we had the dog with us and strangers interacted with us. And then that wasn't enough for me, so I wanted to try it again. So I went with another little doggy that I still have. I wanted to know, could I replicate that? And again, same thing. The blue line is no dog or with the dog, significant difference. What I found was a bummer was with electronics, it did not make a difference. I could not increase sociability even with my cute little dog. So how does this affect mental health services? In adolescents alone, 46% of them will experience a mental health episode. 50% of them will never receive treatment. And 60% of those that do receive treatment drop out. So I took a look at equine assisted psychotherapy versus treatment as usual. And in equine assisted therapy, compared to the 60% attrition in treatment as usual, equine assisted was only 9%. I think that tells us a little something about the human animal bond. And then all the mental and physical health benefits of pets, so much research here. It encourages physical movement and nature. If your dog has to go out, guess what? You have to go out. It promotes in the moment thinking. We get to think about the experience with our dog instead of being in our heads or thinking into anxiety and things that bother us. It increases our sense of control and empowerment. It increases feelings of connectedness. Something loves you unconditionally, which increases oxytocin. And it helps our mood, which increases dopamine. It can tend to decrease stress hormones, and it decreases blood pressure. And there are some intangible benefits. So we get this sense of pride because we're caring for something really important. And then it adds to our elements of identity because you're now a pet mom or pet owner or an animal lover. And it adds meaning to life, promotes our sense of purpose. We feel connected and that we belong. And it provides comfort, a non-judgmental relationship, and this just feeling of acceptance. And then COVID, right? COVID adds a veil on everything. So our own Dr. Erdman at the university I graduated from collaborated with some folks and looked at about 4,000 dog owners and how they responded during COVID-19 with their pet. 52% said they felt even a stronger bond with their dog, that their pets played a really big role in reducing their depression and loneliness, and it helped them maintain a regular schedule so that they could stay kind of in a routine, cope with the uncertainty, have some self-compassion, and still have purpose even though they were stuck at home. The physical presence really helped them when human contact was only remote. The tactile components of touch can really provide comfort and connectedness sometimes. So let's talk about the economics of a human-animal bond influence pet industry. It is big business. $143 billion spent on pets in 2023. 37 billion of that was vet care and products alone. So this is some big business, and it's really grown. So some human-animal bond implications for vet med. We have this conflict between being in vet med because we care for the animals, and then also being on the front line of upset clients, probably upset patients, as in pets, really intense situations, and then you're going to run across abuse and neglect cases that are going to drain on you. You have to make life and death decisions and do the appropriate action with that, sometimes daily, sometimes multiple times daily. Financial convenience euthanasias are going to cause moral stress for you, some moral dilemmas. I don't think it's the right thing to do. I don't have a choice. Limited gatekeeping from difficult clients. Clients often have direct access to you veterinarians, and that makes stress even higher. They're very committed to their pet and very stressed about their pet. Their human-animal bond is really driving them to be fussy with you. You're also subject to the limits of the organization that you work for. I can't say this enough. Like, there might not be resources at your organization, so you are limited in what you can do, or it's so cost prohibitive that the client can't afford it. That's going to weigh on you. You're going to be caring for pets, you probably already do, a family and friends for the entirety of that pet's life. That's going to make you feel even worse if something bad happened to that pet. In my field, I'm not allowed to work with anybody that I know personally. So I sort of have this protection. Veterinarians do not have that. And then you always have this constant pressure to say yes. I can work longer hours. I can treat more patients. I'll take on more roles. I'm going to do this for free because you can't afford it, because you've been doing this since you were trying to get into vet school. All this working more and more and more. So you're very conditioned for it. So ethics in vet med specifically, in the realm of animals, the definition of ethics is the system of moral principles and professional standards that guide veterinarians in making decisions and taking actions that serve the best interests of animals, clients, the public, and the profession. So some things that are also involved are your value systems. So your own deeply held beliefs that guide your choices and behaviors. So what you consider important and what you strive to be in your life to support your worth, like what you think is worthwhile. And then your morals. And these are your standards or your personal codes of behavior based on values and beliefs about what's right and wrong. So how you interpret and live out your values through your behaviors. Anytime you say to yourself, I should, it's probably tapping on some kind of a moral standard. So some impacts of human-animal bond on veterinarians. You might think about the benefits and challenges for you. How will this benefit you? How will it be a challenge you can be on the lookout for? How is the human-animal bond going to work for you and against you, in other words? How is the client attachment to animals going to impact you? This might bump up against your own human-animal relationships at home. And you might take on this thing called burden transfer. If you're really devoted and committed to a patient, maybe you've seen this patient its whole life, or the client, you're really close to the client, sometimes we take on their sense of burden instead of holding it with them. So this can be really stressful. Ethical treatment of food production animals. Temple Grandin did a really great job redesigning, early in her career, redesigning the paths that cows took to slaughter, making it much more ethical, much more humane, but you might have feelings about that. Things like ear cropping, declawing, debarking. The human-animal bond portion of your brain is going to either go, that's okay, I'll do it so someone else doesn't mess it up, or I'm never going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. Anesthetizing animals for rads or x-rays. You might have certain feelings about that based on your human-animal bond, sort of part of your identity. And then how you approach euthanasia. Do you look at it as a good death? Euthanasia stands for good death. Or do you think that it's cruel and you'll never do it? The way you think about the human-animal bond is going to impact all of these things for you. So some things to consider. What are the ethical conflicts in any case that you see? And these to me are things that give you like the ick or make you pause. Who's involved in this conflict? Like, who are the stakeholders? Is it the kid that owns the pet unofficially? Is it the parent that has to pay the bill? It's really everyone. So who is involved that you need to be looking out for? What information is important? And do you need more information? And finally, what are you bringing to the situation? So what is in your human animal bond backpack that you're bringing to the context of this case? These are things to always keep in mind. So let's just look quickly at some examples. The client brings a healthy 1-year-old cat to the clinic you are working at. They have an appointment to have the cat declawed because of damage to curtains, furniture, etc. Your clinic performs these procedures and you're assigned the case. What are you going to do? So let's add a little monkey wrench. You find out that the young child of the pet owner and the cat are inseparable, and the pet owner will euthanize the cat if the procedure's not done. Would that change your mind? Would that make you do something differently? Maybe you find out that the parents have recently separated. And if we go back to the little chart about the kiddo that's really at the closely bonded with its pet, does this change your mind? Does this make you think differently? These are all going to challenge your ethical compass. So let's try another one. There are delivery shortages for a new medication to treat intestinal cancer in dogs. The next delivery is not due for several weeks, and you only have enough to treat one dog, but there are two patients in the waiting room that urgently need the medication. Patient one is a 2-year-old poodle, has never been seriously ill before the diagnosis. She lives in a family with 2 children and 2 adults and is alone half the day. Without the drug, her condition will deteriorate rapidly, and she might not survive until the next medication delivery. Alternatively, patient number 2 is a 9-year-old terrier who lives with a younger dog and their retired human. The man is a little frail, but he's very devoted to the care of his dogs. Without the drug, the dog's condition would rapidly deteriorate and he might not survive until the next medication delivery. What would you do? We could look at the poodle as 2 years old, pretty young, probably has a long life ahead of her, probably pretty bonded to the children. And then we have the 9-year-old terrier who lives with just his retired human. So that human animal bond is going to be really strong. So it's kind of difficult to decide, right? So which dog would you give the medication to? And why would you do that? How would you make that decision? So let's add a few monkey wrenches to this story. Patient number 2 is your dog. So that terrier is your dog. Maybe he's staying with your grandpa. Does this change your mind? Does this make you think differently about it? How about if patient number 2 has been with you since he was a puppy, his whole life? See how the human animal bond really starts to interfere with our ethical decisions we have to make. Okay. Patient number 1 is your family member's dog. Does that influence how you feel or what you might decide? And patient number 1's whole family maybe is in the waiting room looking to you for answers. So those little kids are looking at you, the parents are looking at you. There's going to be a certain amount of pressure. I know I wrote no pressure, haha. There will be pressure. So how is that going to influence your decision, or would it influence your decision? So we have all these factors that come into play that are all so attached to the human animal bond, both our clients and ours. We have to always be thinking about this. And maybe this is a good time to consult. So in summary, the bond between humans and animals is strong and it's ever growing. Dogs started out surveilling the outskirts of tribal areas and then warning the tribe if there was an intruder in exchange for food. Now they're on our beds, right? So we've evolved quite a ways. Horses used to pull carts and be more kind of burden carrying animals. I saw a really cool meme where in one picture the horse is pulling the cart, and that was back in the day, and now the horse is being trailered, so it's actually in the cart being pulled by the human in a pickup truck. So we've come a very, very long way. And secondly, the human animal bond will complicate ethical decisions you make. If you had to pause in any of those examples, then very obviously there's some interference of human-animal bond, something happening, right? Number three, the human-animal bond will be an impactful part of your career. It's going to be rewarding in some cases. It's going to be challenging in others, and you just have to figure out what that means for you and how you're going to manage that. The other part is that we're only beginning to unpack it. We're only beginning to look at the science behind dog responses, a dog connection with their humans. They now can differentiate their human from other humans apart from smell, which is amazing. And then the right answer will probably always be it depends, because every situation is going to be different. It's going to be this situation on this day with whatever position you're in. So please remember that for yourselves. And then I will leave you with this little statement. If I could be half the person my dog is, I'd be twice the human I am. I truly believe that. If you would like any additional information about support that the VMHS offers, please contact Dr. Katie Lawler at klawler@nomv.org or vmhs@nomv.org. It's been my pleasure to talk to you about this topic today, and I would love to talk more. If you want to, let Dr. Lawler know. She will give you my contact info with no problem, and I hope that you have a lovely day. Thank you so much.